Welcome to the GoblinetteHerald, a channel focused on the paranormal, parapolitical, and various curiosities. Tonight's programming features reconstructions of user experiences posted to the image board 4chan, the curation of which was inspired by channels such as Keck, Midnight Broadcast, Pepe's Choice, and others. These renditions use images from the locations of said incidents and attempts at recreating the events or entities therein described. If you enjoy any of this programming, please subscribe and consider donating to see more videos of this kind, as well as live programming, call-in shows, and viewer submissions, live broadcasts from trailcam/correspondence, essays, and original programming. Thank you. We begin with a classic from the District of Columbia. The original poster relates a story from his high school days and his encounter on his commute to school and work in Washington, D.C., seat of the immense power of the United States, built atop a swamp and a transition between geological zones, food basket of native tribes. Its perception nowadays is different, its more unseemly elements being exposed and cast in a new light by recent revelations. With all that we know, what do we not? What might be crawling just beneath the already considerably dark surface?
Well, I guess I should go ahead and finally tell my story. It's not very K-like, to be honest. It's not in a woods. I was no funds at the time. There are no skinwalkers/goatmen/fleshgates involved, as far as I know anyways. But I feel compelled to finally getting around to writing them out, just for the record and maybe so you guys can get some spoops out of it. Back when I was 17, I lived just outside of Washington, D.C. I enjoyed it well enough for the most part. D.C. is no funds and has a massive homeless problem, but isn't a complete shithole. I was a complete autist in school with depression and shit, and I got kicked out of my nice Catholic prep school due to shit grades. Instead of sending me to public school over in Virginia where I lived, my parents decided to send me to a non-traditional school in the city. In addition to school, I had a job at a shitty movie theater in Rockville, which is just outside DC to the northwest. Now, I was 17 at the time, but had no driver's license. When I was able to get my learner's permit at 15, I procrastinated due to not wanting to go to the DMV for a whole year. When I finally did get my permit, I did my hours and my driving course and such, but fell into the same trap of not wanting to go to the DMV, so I didn't get my license until I was almost 18. So because of this, and because my parents rightfully didn't want to drive me into DC every day during rush hour, only to then have to go back into Virginia to get to work, I took the metro to school and work every day. My school was about a block away from the Eastern Market metro station on the Orange Line, about 3/4 of a mile southeast from the Capitol along Pennsylvania Avenue. My job was a little ways away from the Rockville metro station. When my shift ended at around 11:15, I had to book it to the metro stop most days. Stations close at 12 Sun to Thurs, and take the Red Line down to Metro Center, which, as the name suggests, is in central DC. Switch to the Orange Line, then take the Orange Line to East Falls Church in Virginia, from which I would take the bus or a cab home. I'll put it all in a map I'll make and post along with this. Sorry, a whole post of this is just setup. The setup is important. So now that all that is established, I can start getting into the story. For a couple months, everything was completely unremarkable. I had ridden the metro on and off for most of my life, but never this extensively. So I was fine with the whole experience. The only part that ever felt weird was coming home at night. During the weekends, even at like 1 a.m., people were on the metro. But during the week, when I came home from work, it was very common for me to be the only person on the train, and sometimes even the only person in an entire station. Though I wasn't really spooked by it, at least for a while. I always sat up front in the train, like the very front. I liked looking out the front of the train and watching the tracks go by. I had loved doing this as a kid, and I still did, because I was a child even at 17. One night I was riding the Red Line back from Rockville to Metro Center. I was the only person in the car, probably in the train. I caught the last train before the system closed. I was looking out the front of the train like usual when I saw something weird. It looked like a white branch, like birch or something. It was thin, almost spindly. It was pressed up against the wall when I first saw it, as the train's headlights started to hit it. I thought it must have been a length of wire or pipe. But then it moved. It was really quick. Not even like twitchy quick. It just suddenly moved out of the edge of the headlights of the train, and I couldn't see it anymore. I wrote it off in my head as being overworked, as cliché as that is. After all, tending to a popcorn machine on a pretty much empty movie theater is hard work. I pretty much forgot about the incident over the course of the week due to school and such occupying my mind. And then, about a week later, I saw it again, in about the same place on the line. This time, it was on the opposite end of the tunnel, and I got to see a little more of the thing before it moved away. It was connected to something bigger, like a leg connected to a body, which is what I immediately conjured up in my mind. I started to be vigilant for the weird leg anytime I was on my way home from work. I would see it more and more often over time. Sometimes I would see a little more than the leg. Sometimes I would even see two of the legs, but it would always scamper into the darkness as soon as the light from the train hit it. Sometimes I would see it a few times during one ride, sometimes not. I started trying to record whatever it was. I would take a notepad with me and record between which stops I would see it, how much of it I saw, and if I saw it repeatedly. At one point, it occurred to me to ask the train operator if he saw anything. So one night, after I got off at East Falls Church, I quickly asked the operator up front if he ever saw anything weird when he drove the trains at night. I tried not to be a spurg about it, but he seemed on edge when I asked him, even though he replied with a simple, "Nah." Things continued like this for a while, and seeing the thing almost became part of my routine of getting home. I wasn't scared of it anymore. Not really, since I was in a fast-moving metal missile, and the thing never seemed to be hostile or anything. Things just continued to go about the same path. Until one night, shit got fucking real. I was riding on the train, duh, and I was waiting for the leg to show up, but it didn't. I had seen it every day for the past 2 weeks, but there was nothing tonight. I was thinking to myself something along the lines of being sad that the 2-week streak was coming to a close when I saw them. Two glints in the darkness. My eyes at this point had gotten so used to spotting things in the darkness due to months of spotting this thing, in addition to years of playing Twitch shooters, so I saw them there. And I knew they weren't normal, but I still tried to rationalize it, even after months of spotting a leg in the metro tunnels. But then, they blinked. It was unmistakable that it was a blink that had occurred. I jumped so hard I nearly pulled a muscle in my leg. I could tell that those eyes I saw were entirely black and beady, like the eyes of a rat. Suddenly, my fear for the thing in the dark was renewed. I was on edge for the rest of the ride to Metro Center. Though I still felt safe inside the train, I was realizing the gravity of the situation. There was something in the dark of the tunnels of the metro, and it had taken enough of an interest in me to show up almost daily. That thought followed me to Metro Center. Ironically, I felt safer in the station than I did on the train due to the simple fact I had never seen anything weird in the stations. I got to Metro Center, got off the train, and waited for my next train. It was then I started hearing it. A soft pitter-patter, not unlike that of a rodent scurrying across a floor. I became on edge again. The noise started getting louder, and I started to shit myself more. At the point where it started actually sounding like human footsteps, I said fuck it to myself and turned around towards the tunnel where my train had come from. I shouldn't have. It was there. Not just a leg or eyes, the thing in its entirety. And it wasn't in the tunnel anymore. It was on the platform with me. That thing is something I will never forget. It was like a person, but warped to the point where almost all traces of humanity were gone. It was thin, horribly thin, emaciated. I could see how its pallid gray flesh wrapped around its bones, not even covering the holes in some of its leg and arm bones. It was hunched over, not on all fours, but hunched over like an elderly person, with its legs crumpled down and its arms held in front of its chest like how a prairie dog holds its arms when it stands up. Its head was completely hairless and was hung down so I couldn't make out its face. I opened my mouth to scream, but I just whimpered like a baby. I shouldn't have done that. I think I provoked it. It started to move towards me with a horrible gait. It stayed in its hunched-over position, low to the ground, but its legs extended out and it took long strides forward, like crouch walking. Its legs wobbled and twitched with each step towards me. It was obvious this thing wasn't used to walking like this, that it was better suited to crawling along the walls. As it came closer, I started to smell it. It had that pungent, rancid odor of trash in the city. My eyes started to water as it got closer. Speaking of which, it was closing the gap fast. When I first turned around, there must have been about 150 feet between us. But within 5 or 6 steps, it was only about half that distance away. My stupid brain finally kicked in and put me into survival mode, and I fucking booked across the platform. My stupid idea was to try and outrun it to the end of the platform, then jump across the tracks to the other platform and keep running out towards the surface. My plan got about a fourth done when I realized it wasn't going to work, because that's when the thing stretched out. I looked over my shoulder and shit myself again. The thing was now standing on its legs, and it had its arms out. I don't know how I only managed to see as much as I did in the tunnel, but what I saw in there wasn't accurately representing the whole thing. It must have been 15 feet tall at least. Its torso was thinner than its femur. Its arms came down to its shins as it let them drag along. And then there was its face. Its face looked like that of a starving man, with sallow skin tightly wrapping its cheekbones like a corset. Its eye sockets were far too big for its beady little eyes, with the top of the socket jutting out a good 2 inches beyond where the eye ended. And the mouth was a gaping hole with no jaw to be seen. This thing had reached its full height, and I had just about made my peace with death when some beautiful motherfucker honked the horn on his train that was coming in downstairs to signify to no one that no one could get on. I don't know why, but that horn caused the monstrosity in front of me to reel backwards and let out the most horrible sound I've ever heard before going down on all fours and scuttling back into the tunnel. I took a cab home that night, and then pretty much every night for the rest of the year. I haven't gone on the metro there since. I've moved farther into Virginia, so I haven't been around Washington. But even if I was back there, I wouldn't take the metro again if it meant losing $10 billion or whatever. I did some more research. Apparently, there are urban myths of something in the tunnels down there. I also found out about a series of abandoned tunnels just under DuPont Circle, the metro stop nearest to which I commonly saw the thing. That's pretty much it. Here's a map of where I saw the thing, with stations where I was near when I saw it marked, and areas to avoid marked.
In America, the monsters of the old country have been retired and the guard has shifted, the woodsman and wood devil position now inherited by the Sasquatch, the werewolf replaced by the skinwalker and dog man, ghouls and wraiths replaced by rakes and crawlers. Yet there is one whose station has yet to be filled, dragons. In this story, the original poster, living in the deep folds between the Appalachian hills, hears a mysterious shriek in the surrounding woods and is drawn to investigate.
Sunday, 23rd November, 2014. Between hours of 6:35 to 7:58. Live in the boonies, basically forest, gerrymandered by houses and farms that go in and out of repair. There are several other houses right by mine, but I talk to the neighbors exactly none. A fact I'm glad for, because the community looks like some straight-up Silent Hill shit sometimes. There's like a weekly spoopy happening, to the point where I got so bored with it, I just shrug it off as the status quo. Several weeks back, this changed. The time is 10 a.m., and I'm savoring being a lazy fuck for not having to go into work that day, drifting in and out of sleep. Suddenly, ear-splitting roar. All of my what? Check laptop. I do comedy YouTube playlists to help me get to sleep. Just music tends to put me on edge for whatever reason. No ad playing. Halfway through 2-hour video. Nothing in Dark Seed 2 makes the sound I just heard. Even if it had been, something that loud would have blown out my laptop's rather shitty speakers. Slightly confused, turn off pending alarm and drift in and out of consciousness with laptop on bed so I can roll over and check if I hear it again. 2 hours later. Halfway conscious. Screonk, motherfucker, forgot about me. The roar both sounded louder and closer, as well as clearer. It sounded like the bastard child of a bear roar and that foghorn cry Godzilla makes. Tactically, what? Sounded like it came from behind house. Decide I'm not sleeping until I find out what made that noise. Grab lightly ruined oaken hiking staff. Grab fireplace poker. Bathe both in ash, as whatever the fuck made that noise was clearly not of this fucking earth anyways. Trek in a woods. Check glove compass to double check I haven't been turned around like I had before in the same woods. Glove compass is going beyond fucking nuts, spinning like a top, occasionally pointing towards the direction of a clearing I've visited before with friends. I am a clearly sane, rational, and level-headed individual, so obviously, I go towards the noise. As I get closer, hear trashing in the clearing, as well as a cow. There's a dairy farm next to my house, but I don't recall Farmer Dan breeding fucking mutants. Start to see shit that's clearly off. Large movements through the gaps in the tree line. Low rumbling sound. Unnatural heat. Suddenly very glad I hadn't changed out of my sleep shorts. Occasional burn mark on the ground. Yes, I am that retard in the horror movie that moves towards the live hellmouth, apparently. Eventually get to the clearing to see what the ruckus is about. Peek out from behind tree. It's a fuck-mothering dragon. Or at least that's what I'd fucking assume. Think less Tolkien, more Lovecraft. It had pale gray skin that looked like boiled konjac, to the point where it appeared actively wet. It was hexapodal, balanced on 6 squat legs that looked like an elephant's more than anything. There were a pair of massive wings on its back that looked like they could actually lift the monstrosity off the ground. Even folded, they seemed beyond massive. Its tail looked like it had been stumped, not in the way that it had cut off, but there was some sort of bulbous mass where the tail was supposed to continue. And then there was its head and neck. It was like some kind of fucked up xenomorph. Recesses where its eyes obviously should have been, but they seemed to have skin over them. Yellowed teeth sticking out its closed maw on both sides, painted red with the gore of the cow it had just finished eating. And that's when my brain got a chance to catch up from holy fuck dragon and got a chance to look at the rest of the clearing. It was totally scorched, like basically everything was blackened. Hear snapping noise in the woods roughly to the left of me. Dragon looks up. Its head is pointed in a decidedly uncomfortable at me direction. Hide behind tree. What smells like ozone? Suddenly, rushing sound, like a dam burst. About to look from behind tree, but my judgment gets the best of me. Good fucking thing, because I suddenly find myself a yard from a large stream of aggressive something. To this day, I can't figure out what it was exactly. Going out of green text here for a second, it didn't seem to be exactly fire or a flammable substance. The movement was too jerky, but it didn't spark or crackle like electricity, and I still have the right half of my body, so I'm guessing it wasn't plasma. But it was sure as fuck burning anything it touched. A spark got kicked up and burnt a sizable hole in my shirt. Begin tactically praying in Old Norse once the fire dies down. Figure I'm not escaping, so I might as well go out fighting. Jump out from behind tree, ready to suicide charge a dragon. Hear rustling from same spot as before. Boom! Same roar as before, followed by some decidedly unpleasant shrieking. Large gaping hole opened in eye recess. Hear shouting, "Get the fuck away from my cows, you fucker!" Holy shit, it's Farmer Dan. Not looking at him, focusing on Big Fucker. It unfurls its wings and starts to flap and takes to the sky with surprising expediency for something that had a torso the size of an RV. And it certainly felt like a large aircraft had just taken off. I was nearly bowled over from the force of the wind. It circles in the air once before heading out towards the lake. Stand there for a moment, just plain vanilla dumbfounded. More movement. Brandish fireplace poker. Farmer Dan is now 10 feet from me. The gun in his hands looked like an old-style break action, but the barrels were ridiculously large in diameter. My brain finally processes the fact that I'm being asked a question. "Annan, what the fuck are you doing out here?" Try my hardest to point out this is not the most important question to be asked in this situation. Finally managed to coax an answer out of him. Apparently, several of his longhorns went missing from the pasture, and he caught sight of it moving to that clearing after one more had disappeared. Hunter friends had apparently reported some weird goings-on to his backwoods to him. Said they'd found some freaky shit and some big-ass nest. Only one dead cow in this clearing, and no nest to be seen. My brain refused to examine the possible meaning of those facts at the time. Ask him about the gun. Says he uses it to hunt whatever goes after his cows. The inflection implied this was not the first supernatural entity he'd shot at using this shotgun. Farmer Dan stops me before I get back on the path. "Don't tell nobody about this, Annan. No use causing a fuss over some fairy tale nonsense." I am not about to disagree with a man holding what I can assume is a 2 or less gauge. Walk back home and fall asleep. Wake up later that day, assuming it was all some sort of fucked up dream. Look down and notice hole in shirt was legitimately there. Brain reeling for not dragon-related answers. Half-heartedly settle on this somehow being the shirt I'd burned slightly during a bonfire several years beforehand. Forced to confront reality when I notice said shirt lying on the floor. Decide then and there I'm moving to the largest city I can get to so I don't have to deal with this bullshit anymore. There was a huge rainstorm the next day, so a lot of the char was washed out, but sure the fuck enough, when I went back to that clearing several days later, it was filled with morel mushrooms, so it had to have been scorched at some point. I don't know what the fuck I saw, and I don't know if Kay would have any better idea of what it was. But if I ever know that thing's in the area again, I'm finding as many K commandos as possible and leading reality's probably first dragon-slaying raid.
That next story involves another anonymous user attending school inside the bounds of the Special District of Columbia, and whose job as a pizza delivery man takes him on a run to a secluded neighborhood to drop off a pizza to a suspicious customer. The following is a story posted to the paranormal board of 4chan.
Okay, X. I was obsessed with Goatman / Skinwalker / mimicry stories for a while, but I haven't looked in a while. And then this happened to me last night, and now I literally cannot sleep or stop shitting my pants due to its proximity to my house. I'll try to use green text as much as I can, but first, the background. I am 21 and a college senior from CT. While I live in a semi-rural area, about 20 minutes to closest supermarket / fast food, I go to school in Washington, D.C. Not the nice part either, the part where crackheads are a real thing and cops are reassuring rather than troublesome. I've definitely seen some shit in my day. It would be good to mention here that I'm not some glandular freak, but I'm about 6'1" and 240. A lot of muscle, but Lord knows I could drop 15 pounds. I love to smoke pot, get drunk, and eat. Sue me. Being the good student that I am, I picked a real major, accounting, and I interned for a mid-sized PR firm doing accounting bitch work and getting paid $20 an hour. College is expensive as fuck though, so I deliver pizzas at night after the office closes. It's a cheap, drunk food kind of pizza place that has an absurdly large delivery radius and is around 20 minutes from my house, 5 minutes from the beach. My place is north of there, and we deliver probably another 15 minutes past my house. I'm actually typing this at work in between examining the fine print on our client contracts to ensure we are charging them every penny we can. Cheap bastards. So basically, the further north you go from the pizza place, the more rural it gets. I work until close, and this occurs around 9:45 p.m. Be me, in the back, folding pizza boxes like a good little corporate bitch. Counter girl comes back with a delivery slip. She tells me the customer sounded weird on the phone, kind of like he was talking through a fan or through his hands, and that he was almost like gurgling. My DC experience instantly makes me think crackhead, although around here it's way more likely to be some benzo freak or painkiller addict. Automatically assuming some weird interaction will occur. Look at address, see it isn't kind of bumblefuck. I'm a little mad because I don't want to drive that far, but fuck it. It's the weirdest ticket I've ever seen. Guy ordered a large pizza with anchovies, ground beef, ham, sausage, pepperoni, etc. Literally $15 worth of extras. I go ask the counter girl if it's right. She says she thinks so. She couldn't really make it out though, so she said she did her best. She's like 16, so I cut her some slack, assume she was daydreaming, and call the number back. Phone rings 5, 10, 20, 30 times. No answer. Hang up, call again. Phone goes right to, the number you have dialed does not have a voicemail box that has been set up yet. Goodbye. Okay then, .jpg. The manager decides to just make the pizza as ordered and proceed from there. Deliver a pizza to a hilariously obese and blackout drunk couple. Invited me in for drinks, but I don't drink or smoke when I work. I hope someone else took a weird pizza. Surprise! No one did. It's my turn. Begrudgingly take the pizza and get in my car. Enter address into phone. It's on a side street adjacent to a park locals call Open Space, which, despite the name, is about 500 acres of straight woods. It's about 25 minutes away, basically the edge of our range. Put on some dubstep, judge me, and crank my turbo Subi, judge me more, out to this road. If you're not from a rural area, this can be hard to explain. Winter in the woods is scary. There is never a single sound, ever. Unless there's something larger than a cat walking around, it's you and dead silence. Finally get to address. There are a few houses on the street, but they sit on probably 5 acres, so they're spaced out a fair amount. Looking for number 1134. I pass an 1130, then a long stretch of nothing, then an 1144. What the fuck? .jpg? I just want to get this over with and get the next delivery without getting stabbed by some pillhead over a fucking pizza. Call the number. Rings, rings, stops ringing. There's no sound, but instead, kind of like a buzzing or humming. It's hooked up to my car stereo, and it's getting louder and louder until I just hang up because I don't want it to ruin my speakers. The windows are fogging up because at this point I'm pulled over between those two houses. Right when I roll the windows down, I am overcome by the odor of decaying trash, like driving through Newark, NJ. Fucking gross. So I put the car in first and I start pulling towards the next house. At the end of the driveway, there's a stanchion with a light on top. Gonna pull into this house and knock and ask if maybe they gave the wrong number over the phone. Makes sense for a pillhead. I'm probably 100 feet away when I see someone step out of the darkness into the light at the bottom of the driveway. Good, it's the fucker that ordered. Expecting this guy to be all over the fucking place, leaning over and being fucked up. Guy isn't that fucked. Stopped the car about 10 feet from him. Black coat that looks 3x too big for him, even though he's probably got 5 inches on me. Don't look at him at first. Getting pizza out of car and getting ticket and change as I talk. Hey sir, sorry about the wait and the calls, this is pretty far. No response. Realize I should be watching him, considering the signs. The smell is still pretty pungent, but I know it's not trash day. I get the pizza on the roof of my car. He is standing under the light on the opposite side of my car. So I got out of my driver's seat and went to driver rear to get pizza. Put pizza on roof of driver rear. Guy is probably 10 feet away from passenger rear. I finally get enough attention to get a good look at him. Giant tall, no shoes, ripped up jeans, stains everywhere. Big jacket as mentioned. Look at his face, sunken eyes. Can't even see them with the light. Getting real sketched out because guy hasn't moved or said a word. Stop the process and just stare at the guy. He is staring right at me with those freaky fucking eyes. His head is sort of bobbing side to side, but not in any fluid sense at all. Kind of like a car door, like how it stops at halfway open, then you give it another shove and it stops it all the way open. I watch his head do this in no real pattern for probably 10 seconds. Starting to get really uneasy between the stench and the head thing and the eyes and the not fucking answering. I stand frozen, and so does he. Without breaking eye contact, I take my phone out of my pocket and hold it level with the roof so I can look at the guy and my phone at the same time. Go to recent calls, call the number for the guy. Call it. Phone starts ringing, but I hear no phone anywhere. Then, out of the quiet of the woods, I hear, faintly, so faintly, a fucking cell phone ringing back in there maybe 50 or 100 yards away. This is me kicking myself for not getting my CC yet. This is me almost shitting myself. The guy's just standing there still doing the head thing, but I swear I see that fucker smile. Finally get the courage to speak. Can you please come get this? Also, I think you may have dropped your phone when you were hiding a body or whatever in the woods. Nervously laugh, still thinking maybe this guy dug too deep into the prescription bottle or found some PCP or some shit. I see his mouth open, head still bobbing, feet planted to ground. He makes sort of a low, guttural, quick grunt, then a high grunt, then a low grunt. They're sort of soft, kind of like someone clearing their throat. I've shut the rear passenger door at this point, and I'm ready to book it to the driver's seat if I got to. Just as I go to call that phone again, I hear words. The phone's not mine. The pause between the and phone's not was way too long. Phone's not literally sounded like one word. Mine came off an octave higher. My mind is DEFCON 5, like just full panic attack. Knees are weak. I'm literally about to peace out. I push the pizza to the far side of the roof, away from me. finally muster out, "Sir, you're freaking me the fuck out. I have a 45 and less than $20 on me. Please come take this so I can leave." When I say this, the head bobbing stops. His eyes are dark and burning a hole through my skull. Opens his mouth again. It was his. "What?" I say, stunned. "It was his. The phone was his." The guy comes towards the car. Not a step, but like one huge muscle spasm that propels him forward. "The phone was his," he repeats. I'm on the verge of tears at this point. Standing next to open driver's side, pizza is on the roof over passenger rear door. Guy jerk jumps once closer to the car. "The phone is not his anymore." I blubber wordless, and then gathering man balls, I scream, "I'm gonna call the fucking cops and blow your fucking drug addict head off if you don't get the fuck out of here." I see this fucker smile, this creepy fucking smile, and without moving his mouth, I hear him say in a completely different voice, a voice I've never heard before, "Go away! Stop following me! I will call the police!" In one big jerky motion, the thing reaches forward, takes the pizza off the top of the car, and places a couple round things that I later identify as quarters on the roof, surrounded by dark liquid that spreads over the roof. I don't even think, just get in the car and peel out down the road, leave the hot sleeve for the pizza, leave the shit on the roof, don't even close the door all the way. I go down the road at about 80 for a quarter mile, then pull a U-turn because I don't want to get even more lost with this psycho here. I whip down the road past the place where he was, nothing. Finally get to the end of the road. There's a stop sign to merge with a main road. Look right to make sure it's clear. Look left. This thing's face is 12 inches from my own when I turn. Tactically shit myself. Peel down the road. Finally make it back to the pizza place, shaking like bloody hell. Smoke a joint just to calm me down, which I never do when I'm working. I walk in the front door of pizza place. "Hey, Anon. That guy at the open space house you just called back, he said you forgot some food, but he only ordered the pizza, right? He said come back, I don't know." I start crying. Look at my phone, which had been thrown through the car with my driving. 14 fucking missed calls from that number. Literally in tears. All the voicemails are empty except the last one. All I can hear is ragged breathing and those low gruntings. Fucking bawling my eyes out in front of this hot-ass counter girl, and I don't even give a fuck. Sit for 10 minutes and calm down. Remember the change on the roof. Go out to car and turn on flashlight. The roof of my car was covered in the most viscous, weird liquid, but it smells like blood, and I throw up immediately. In the panel gap between my trunk and the end of my rear window, I find the quarters. Covered in the same maple syrup thick goop blood shit, and stuck to it are soft little chunks of what I can only imagine is tissue. Go to open my car and my blood turns to effing ice. There was a single line of blood going from the front quarter panel to the driver's side door. The fucking thing tried to open my motherfucking door when it was next to me at the stop sign. Tactically cry and boot my pants more. I go back in. Tell counter girl to try and call the number again. She tries over and over and over, but the phone goes right to voicemail. Next morning, I give the number to my uncle, who is a police captain a few towns over. Says the number is from a burner phone, paid in cash, basically untraceable, and it appeared to be off now. I sleep with the lights on now. I'll be lurking for comments or suggestions or something, like, is this fucker gonna stalk me and kill me or call me again? I'm fucking terrified.
The next story is mundane, and yet somehow even more disturbing, for the active agency it involves is primarily in the form of man. The original poster bids that we alight upon our imaginations and land home to kindly and pleasant countryside, which hides a terrifying and wondrous nature beneath. We go to East Yorkshire and its coasts with their sheer cliffs of epic scale, where once pirate and smuggler did ply their trades. The writer's testimony relates to us his suspicions, and also his circumstantial evidence, of the just barely visible substratum of old magic and evil still touring that lonely, weather-beaten stretch of coast. Please enjoy, the Holderness Coast.
Subex. I've been itching to spill my possibly paranoid theories regarding the area in which I used to work. East Yorkshire, specifically the Holderness Coast. The place is very rural, cut off from the rest of country. Seriously, no one passes through. And isolated socially due to a number of features. Notably the thick accent with traces of Old Norse that's pretty much incomprehensible to outsiders. My work was in the logging trade. 6 days a week I'd get up at 4 AM, journey out of the only major urban centre, Hull, which coincidentally isn't that bad, to a wood farm, cut and bag up logs and kindling, load up my dirty white van and run out deliveries to all the country folk who still think coal and coke are the only way to heat a bath. During my 12 years in this trade, I ran into a lot of unsettling things, overheard strange ramblings and witnessed a few suspicious things. Secondly, and this is well documented, the region has a nasty history regarding missing persons and child abuse. My mother, who was a social worker in the city, often talked of uncooperative police officers, paedophile rings, and institutionalized abuse in care homes. So anyway, I moved a few weeks ago and have only recently started to be comfortable talking about the things I suspect. Whilst it is suspicion, I could never shake the feeling that there was some superstructure type thing that I didn't know about. And regardless of whether 90% of the things I'm about to divulge are wrong, there's still the 7 people missing a day statistic, heroin-filled seaside towns, and paedophile rings. Pick-related. Mappleton's Church. A hamlet I detested. Too small. Locals too sly. The original was torn down in the 1850s, I think. My grandfather told me a few old wives' tales, as he called them, regarding the reason for its tearing down. The original structure goes back to at least 1100. Firstly, the old wives' tale my grandfather used to tell me about the church. In the mid-19th century, Hornsey, a nearby seaside town now filled with heroin, was very popular with factory workers from Hull. The story goes that the congregation used to kidnap kids from the town, bring them a few miles down the coast to Mappleton, and, well, you know, do spooky stuff to them. He never said what, but left it to my imagination. After a shipwreck near the hamlet and the murders of the survivors got out when the port authorities came looking for the goods, they found the graves of the kids took from Hornsey beneath the floors of the old medieval church. They tore it down and rebuilt it. Don't know anything about what happened to those involved, he never claimed to know. But I now think the whole tale isn't too far from the truth. One incident sticks out, or rather, a collection of events, that leads me to believe child kidnapping is still a pastime for those backward fucks. Should have made it clear, the congregation of Mappleton's Church. In the late 1990s, when I just started in the wood trade, Mappleton used to be 3 makeshift shacks on some land behind some terrace houses and the sea. I delivered to one house here, an old woman called Deirdre, though she was known to me and locally as the Witch, and Deirdre was a heinously ugly woman. The nose, the warts, even on the nose, keck. Wrinkles, rotting teeth, the works. No idea how old she was, but she could have been 50 to 90. Poor people age quickly. The other 2 shacks belonged to her sons, whom I nor anyone else claimed to ever see. Her shack was standard wood, salvaged PVC windows and corrugated thing, covered in dirt and at least an inch of soot. During the year in question, a couple of kids had gone missing in one of the villages around the area. Not a lot of fuss was made. Parents were junkies apparently, so it's not like it mattered to anyone. During my rounds in the village, I overheard a conversation on my way into the back garden of one of the houses. Very softly on the wind, mind, so I could be mistaken. But it went along the lines of, "The witch never asked us." When I entered the back garden, I greeted my customer. Old dirty fat guy, toothless, etc., etc. and a farmer I haven't seen before then. I asked them the standard question. Been up to out or nout? What have you been up to, dear sir? To which the customer replied, laughing, lurking there what's mine, looking for what is rightfully mine, my good old chap. I asked whether the witch had something to do with it. He was startled by this, and the mood became a bit aggressive. I continue to the witch's shack and knock on her door thing. No answer. Knock loudly. No answer. So I leave it, cursing her for making me lug heavy bags of coal for no reason. The farmer I worked for, old happy Mike Gray, pro tip, he was a miserable sod, was quite the with regards to currency. So he was distressed to not have got the pennies he was entitled to from the old witch and sent me back the next day. This time she answers. She blocks the door and tells me she'll take the bags of coal in. Obviously she can't carry bags of coal, so I insist, been polite and whatnot. Instead of the cheery thanks for my niceness, she just huffs and puffs and lets me in. However, there were tiny handprints on the doorframe leading to the adjoining room, and traces of tiny footprints where the floor hadn't been traversed as regularly. Obviously, I put two and two together, act as if I didn't notice jack shit, and promptly made my way to the post office to gather intel. The post office is the hub of social life in rural villages. I ask whether they'd seen the witch coming and going the past few days. The sub-postmistress winks at me, no shit, and says, "Aye, but us'll tak care of dat." Affirmative, old bean, but I'll see that your inquiry is acted upon. She made no effort to appear ignorant of what I was obviously hinting at. I mentioned the tiny handprints in the soot, but she just acted so... well, she didn't seem to care that I would suspect her complicity in this thing. I ring the police helpline for the case of missing kids and tell them what I saw. They promised to follow up my report and treat me a bit like a fool. I started to dread having to go back to her shack the following week, but I didn't have to. A big storm hit the coast during the week. Erosion is a massive thing on the Holderness coast. It loses a meter a year, and during storms it's not unheard of for 10 plus meters to slip into the sea. But when I go back to Mapleton, and I drive onto the land where the shacks were, I see nothing. The witch's shack obviously fell into the sea, but her son's shacks, which were further forward, were gone as well. I can see the shitty concrete flooring from where her son's shacks used to stand. I go to the post office again. There's also like nowhere else to go in Mapleton, barring the cliffs, and ask about her.
Ain't sea, and her son's gone with her.
In the sea, chum. I ask about her sons. She just tells me they've gone with her. I'm pretty peeved now, because she's obviously lying. I mentioned the concrete floors. She just laughs me away, saying I'm a cheeky mare. I feel the atmosphere change to one of aggression again, and leave. So, at the time, I'm really confused by it all. I carry on my rounds. The final house I delivered to in the village was one of the terraces which overlooked the land the witches' shacks were on. As I'm taking the logs into the front room, I see, in the kitchen, one of those mega block, I think, pirate ships. This old guy, who swore like a sailor, had no family or friends that I knew of, was not spending his spare time playing with a kid's toy. Obviously the villagers knew that the kids were nearby, or someone's kids were nearby, and they obviously used the storm as cover to get back at the witch for what presumed to be her taking a kid without their permission. Sounds far-fetched, and I'd agree with you, but the people and the general atmosphere of the town, plus the subtle clues I picked up, or just wanted to pick up, leads me to think otherwise. I pushed the whole cursed fortnight to the back of my head, took comfort in the fact I'd reported what I saw to the authorities and carried on as usual. I try and make light of it now, but it still really gets to me. Moving city, I'm in Aberdeen now, has improved my way of coping with that, and the other things I've noted. But anyhow, that's one of the more stark, obvious, nasty shit things I've been a witness to. More to follow, though not necessarily as major. Thanks to those of you who are reading this. It's nice to get it all off my chest and stuff. So, I've made it pretty clear that I think a lot of the rural folk around the area used to kidnap/abuse kids. I'll now detail a few other things that aren't really super creepy, but that just kinda stood out as odd. In one hamlet, even smaller than Mapleton, called Rise, there was a primary school, not unusual in the country, but it was derelict, and other schools, larger schools in the area existed. I'd usually get there quite late as it was on my route back to the wood farm, about 4 p.m. in the day for me, and I would always arrive with an old school bus, like a converted van thing, waiting outside the school. Old guy in the driver's seat, no children in the van, no lights on in the derelict school. He'd just sit there in the van, idling. Sometimes if I was delayed, I'd see him drive off. Still no kids in it. Never sat well with me. Why was he there? Every week? Huh. An old lady in another village, I forget its name, apologies, had a nasty tumour on her face. Seriously, she was called Mrs. McCaskill. She was very small and had mannerisms akin to Crow, very nasty eyes and very twitchy and sharp in her movements. The thing that bugged me about her was she had 3 chains bolted to the exterior of her house's back wall, placed about 4 foot up, attached to leather, possibly neck straps. The wall was stained with grime. I reckon it was shit and piss. She didn't have any pets. No idea why she had those chains there. None whatsoever. This memory is very hazy, as it's coming from my childhood. I got into the wood business via my grandfather. I used to travel along with him most weekends as a kid. I used to deliver to the village when I was older. It's called Halsham. I remember a young-looking guy opening the van door whilst I waited for my grandfather to drop off some kindling. He leant over the driver's seat and reached out for me. Then it gets hazy. I vaguely remember my grandfather having it out with the kid verbally, and me having to go with him to a village hall, I think, and sit in some dude's office with the young guy. Like I say, it's a hazy memory. I don't remember much but crying a lot. Ruse, a collection of several large mansion-type things, had one guy who had no fingertips. Nice enough to me, but he had the type of land filled with rusted cars, and he had a son with serious learning difficulties who looked like he had FAS. What was sinister was his son being caught fondling on some abandoned land north of Hull. It was in the local rag, and the topic was obviously broached by me, in a polite way mind, on one of my deliveries. The guy with no fingertips was quite adamant he didn't do anything wrong. When I mentioned he might get away with a lenient sentence because of his FAS, he looked offended and told me in no uncertain terms he was a normal, healthy kid. He wasn't. I replied if he didn't have health issues he did something quite wrong, yet he still remained adamant it was fine. Something about country folk not being pansies and taking what they're entitled to. I left it at that, remembering the Mappleton episode. On top of those relatively minor things, I used to see quite regularly lights in the wooded areas during winter when it got dark early. It was so regular it never struck me as odd until I saw a couple of men walking out of a wooded area in front of me with shovels across the road into a farmer's yard. Again, nothing on its own, but with the culmination of the atmosphere and shit it did make me wonder. Another customer, from Old Ellaby, used to give me homemade preserve on the longest and shortest days of the year. She always promised me her special jam with a wink. Needless to say, that preserve was always thrown away when I got home. Thanks for the feedback, guys. Makes me feel like I'm not in an echo chamber, haha. Next up, I'll tell you about the shit my mum used to talk about before she passed. She was abused as a kid and adopted when she was 8, so she'd seen shit, but she was incredibly strong and pursued her career as a social worker, protective services, rapidly. It kind of destroyed her health and she died relatively young, 52. There's a lane on the outskirts of Hull, technically in a village called Cottingham, which is notorious for the murders carried out down it. It's called, rather aptly, Snuff Mill Lane. The most recent murder down there was about 3 years back. Some poor sap got jumped by 2 lowlifes with baseball bats and was pretty unrecognizable from what I heard. But anyways, I digress. In the 60s, when my mum was still a teenager, a 6-year-old boy was found rolled up in a carpet. He'd been tortured and starved. Basically, he'd been kept as a plaything, finished off with a knife and dumped. Not too unusual, sadly, but my mum always maintained that the reason why there was little to no investigation was because of Hull's paedophile ring, which reportedly contained senior police officers, judges, and counsellors. She maintained till the day she died that it still existed, and I believe her. Not just because I respected and trusted her word, but because in the past decade or so, more and more senior members of Hull's social and legal elite have been outed and prosecuted as pedophiles. Never whilst they were in office or anything, mind. Google Humberside Police Chief and pedophiles. Do the same for counsellor. However, the kid wrapped up in a carpet in the 60s, nothing on the net about him, never been able to find shit. Make of that what you will. This has to do with my relations with an old friend of mine, who has also recently moved away. His family, who won't name, a few of them run a large retail chain, used to own a farmhouse/fuck-of-tuge mansion called Langthorpe Hall. Look it up in the Doomsday Book. The site has been inhabited for 1,000 years at the minimum, and the surrounding grounds had hundreds of square feet of outhouses, barns and stables. Some cottages as well. These, was told, were built a few hundred years ago for families who had settled down due to regular employment with the family in question. All in all, the grounds were huge, like something you'd find in Midwest America, which is hella unusual if you're English. So, my friend inherited the place after his mum died. He didn't live in the mansion, as it apparently cost a fortune to run, bills and everything, but he still rented out the outhouses, cottages and stables. He stayed there once a month or so to see to the estate-related business, but outside of that, he never really showed any love for the place, which was very beautiful aesthetically. We went for barbecues in the summer sometimes, and in 2011 saw him leading a horse to a paddock from the servant's bathroom, which is unusual, as he rents the stables to horse owners and doesn't actually have any horses himself. Anyway, when I go back down to the party, ask him if he's going to do a canter or something for us, just joking around. He laughs sarcastically and talks about something else. He only does this when he push him too far, like when I called his grandma Captain Cancer when she was dying of cancer. So I leave it, because I'm no longer a cunt. Obviously it's his business, and he's not in the mood to discuss it. Fast forward a few hours, I'm still awake with a few other friends smoking some de bois when we start to hear the horses kicking up a fuss. We all ready his shotgun and go chill upstairs. His house is often targeted and staked out by burglars, with it being so far away from anywhere of note. Think nothing more of it. The next morning, get up early-ish, like 6 AM or something, and go to get my cigarettes from my car. This takes me past the paddock. There, see one of the old guys from the cottages shoveling what can only assume to be horse leftovers into a wheelbarrow. Like a lot of that shit is piled in the barrow. He stops when we start walking on the gravel driveway and looks my way. Shouts, "Now then," said something, don't remember what. Got my cigarettes and went back inside. Straight away went to my friend's room, the kid who owns the estate. Tell him his horse is dead and the old dude is clearing it up. He denies any horse was ever there. Get happy, because I know he's lying, and know I can get something out of him. Selling horse meat as pork or something, eh? He gets out of bed, and this is the only time he's ever raised a fist against me in anger. We're super close, brothers for all intents and purposes, and says I'll never understand country life. Laugh, obviously, though was a bit unnerved. Push him for more information literally all morning, only stop when the other guests start waking up. Before I leave to go home, he takes me aside and says something along the lines of, You know what the people are like round here. They have traditions, and I'm obliged to follow them now that I own this place. Please don't ask any more questions, because I don't have the answers. Corny, I know, but it was something to this effect. That still makes me nope to this day. Respect my friend for saying that to me, though. And seems as how he's sold the place and moved, as I have. Don't want to know what he does or doesn't know. My best guess is some semi-pagan cult thing. I know of pedophile rings for sure around the countryside, so this wouldn't shock me. Or something big and nasty fucked up that horse. Big cat sightings are a well-documented occurrence around here, but even so, if a big cat kills a horse, you don't move it with a shovel and a wheelbarrow. I've heard a few tales of big, nasty things fucking up cattle and stuff before, but pay not so much attention to those. Next, I'll repost the stuff about Langthorpe Hall, which is up there with Mapleton in terms of how it makes me feel, plus extra stuff on what I reckon is going on. So I mentioned in the pic that Charlie inherited the estate fairly young and had to see to its business. I rang him yesterday to ask more about it since he sold up, and he was surprisingly forthcoming regarding some details. His mum and dad both used to attend church in New Ellaby on a Wednesday, late night. He reckons they were part of some extreme Christian cult thing. Regarding the tunnels, he said he knew as little as me, but did say that one of the conditions of his running the estate was to allow the people staying in cottages access to the basement. Says he didn't ever see them use it, but then again, he wasn't there regularly. Still won't tell me about the horse incident, and got upset when I mentioned it. Don't blame him. We haven't been close in reality for a long time, More residual platonic love left over from the past. So I don't think I'll ever find out the truth about that incident. To be honest, it was pretty exhausting talking to him about these things. Couldn't get the idea of those missing kids out of my head the whole time.
Pick is looking east towards Langthorpe Hall.
The house itself was freaky at night, and I often used to see faces at the big Georgian windows. But your brain does shit like that when you're already wigged out at night and you look into pure darkness. This incident occurred when I was 18. Charlie's mum was on holiday, but he wasn't allowed keys to his home at this point. We had a party which was busted by the people from the cottages who just let themselves in at 2 AM or something ridiculous like that. We just chilled and smoked in the fields. We often found chewed up rabbits and wood pigeons, not unusual. But on this night we'd been extra stealthy, knowing what the people in the cottage were like with regards to protecting the estate. We went exploring the outhouses and found a lot of creepy stuff. Kids' clothing, crayons, old mouldy porno mags, and some bloodstains, though the bloodstains are definitely most likely from animals when the estate was still actively a farm. After this we travelled northish towards a wooded area through crop fields. It was spring, so the grass wasn't tall enough yet to be all signs style. Coincidentally, Charlie was never allowed in the fields when the wheat was at its highest. I'm with Charles, Ed and Tomo, another good friend, but a major druggie. He's dead now, OD'd in Grimsby a year back. Roughly 100 metres from the woods we hear a fox cry. Not unusual, but it was followed by barking and shouting. Fox hunting has been illegal for a few years now, so we're all engaged in super vigilante mode and start jogging towards the sound to see some country bumpkins getting man erections from hunting a fox with a pack of hounds and all his buddies. Charles is an avid supporter of fox hunting. Country boy though. It's very dark, so we can't see anything distinguishable in the distance, just shadows. We start crouching through the slightly tall crop field until we're about 60 metres away from a group of people. They number about 10-ish. There's a break in the clouds and the moonlight illuminated the scene better. There's a few on horses, but the pack have stopped. We're all watching with bated breath, even Charles. Some guy dismounts and takes out what was either a large rag or an item of clothing. I think, rather paranoidly, that it was a kid's shirt or something, and gives it to the hounds. They start going wild and run off into the woods. Now this bit is up for dispute. I could easily be wrong, and Charles denied it at the time, but me and Ed were in agreement. Tomo didn't talk much about it after, that a distinctly human kind of yelp was let out. We saw movement at the far side of the woods, at which point, unseen by us, someone fires a rifle, and the movement ceases. We can't see the hounds through the grass and scrub in the woods, but we can hear them barking. The blokes gallop up towards the woods and we hear clapping and such. Me and Ed pull out our phones, convinced we've seen a murder. I still am. Charles assures us it's a fox hunt. Tomo, through all of this, speeds roll a massive join and starts creeping off back to the house. Me and Ed meekishly follow and we don't talk about it again. When we left, Charles and Tomo went separately, me and Ed together. Early morning we pass a car towing a horse box. Both of us are still suitably angry at Charles for his denial and equally as worried. He does a 3-point turn and follows the car with the horse box. We're both still a little high, but we've gone that weird intent that comes when you think you're in the right. We follow for an hour before we realise the car in front is doing the same circular circuit over and over again. This realisation convinces us both to go home and forget it. I never did, obviously, given the Mapleton escapade had happened a few months previous to this, related to Langthorpe Hall. As previously said, the place dates back 1,000 years. The building has been rebuilt numerous times, obviously, but the basement, which is about half the side of the house, hasn't been touched much in terms of decor. Back when we were teenagers and Charlie's mum was still alive, we used to go round when she was on holiday. Strictly, no visitors were allowed whilst his mum was home. And what fascinated us the most was the basement, because it had a tunnel running over to the next village, apparently built during the whole Blitz. Wasn't too convinced by this. The property itself is about 13 to 15 miles away from town, and the tunnel would serve no purpose anyway. The village it leads to is a further few miles away. So we're talking 3 to 4 miles of tunnel leading to a village for no other reason than to run away if, in the unlikely event, the Luftwaffe dumped their bombs hilariously off target. But anyway, this time was during our urban explorer phase. We packed a bag, flashlights, and me, Charles, and Ed, another very good friend, went down into the basement to explore the tunnel. The basement floor was all dirt and clay. There was some wooden flooring in places, but it was mostly rotten and damp. It was creepy as fuck. But what huge dark basement isn't?
You could tell where the basement had been extended. Normal reddish brick started where older, I presume, larger grey bricks rested. There were some marked engravings on the wall. Nothing paranormal, just stuff like a name and a date. The oldest one was 1800 something.
Pretty cool. So we start making our way down the tunnel, single file as the thing's about 5 feet 5 inches high and 2 feet across. Very cramped for us, but fun at first. We were walking for close to 10 minutes when Charles, who's at the front, finds either a small herbivore tooth or a human tooth. How he spotted it I don't know, but we're all creaming our pants with scared-induced bravado. A little further up, the tunnel had 2 tunnels splitting off from either side. We did not expect this. We decide to head on straight as previous and return to look down those places later. By now the floor is particularly muddy and chewed up, which set our spidey senses tingling. But here's the thing. The tunnel was going deeper. We could tell by the water level. It was becoming more and more flooded and wet. Now we're perhaps ankle deep in water. Wellies are a must in country life, yo. This is when we definitely knew for sure the tunnel wasn't World War II related. When the water got to about knee high and we started getting wet, we hit a brick wall. Someone had bricked up the tunnel. We try shifting it with our legs and the bottom part gives way, leaving a pretty small gap to crawl through. None of us wanting to get wet, we decided not to go through, but had a peek through with my flashlight. It led into a bigger chamber. Couldn't see much of anything. The light just kept going till it landed on nothing. We all reckoned catacombs. Suitably freaked out and happy with our discovery, we turn back. When we get to the 2 tunnels either side of us, we elect to go into the one on our left. What followed was at least 3 hours of tunnel crawling. My phone died pretty soon, as did Ed's and Charles's, so it could have been longer. By that point, we all had heinous back pain from the crouching, and our feet were numb from the wetness of before. The tunnel we followed never split off, but it did change directions a fair bit, which was odd. On our way out, shat myself hard. After we got back to the original tunnel, I was at the rear. I was the first to realize there was something, or someone, disturbing the water behind us. Could have been rats, could have been badgers, but it shat us up all good. We ran as fast as we could given the space. We were gonna go back, but Ed wussed out,
We didn't see Charles for a few weeks after that. Ed said his mum picked him up from school and dropped him off. Dinner as well. I went to a shitty school and they went to a private. He'd been grounded for going in the tunnel. How his mum knew, and why it was a big deal we couldn't fathom, but of course, knowing what I know now about all these weird, disconcerting incidents, I'm definitely glad she's dead. Harsh, I know, but some people are up to weird shit, and in the country, particularly one so socially isolated as rural East Yorkshire, it's easy to do just about whatever you want. Something like 7 people go missing a day round here according to some local rag. Make of that what you will.
In times of old it was mandatory for certain preparations to be made when traveling across the land, not for fear of bandit or warring lord, but instead for fear of dread forces ready to pluck the unaware from the face of the earth, leaving not even a hair or a drop of blood. Whence the people were taken and how depends on where and when and who is asked. Sometimes a glamour laid over a ravine tricks a wanderer into falling to their death, sometimes a fairy betakes them a bride or groom, stealing away to the unseen, sometimes the person is instead transposed across time and space, and sometimes that person comes back to tell their tale. This story is related to us second-hand, taken from a hunting forum. The original author relates an event that occurred on the ridges that lead to Saddle Blanket Mountain.
On the trip in question, I decided to hike the old Malala Indian Trail that followed the ridgetops from Saddle Blanket Mountain to Oak Ridge, one of the Native Americans' favorite summer camps and trading centers. It was a beautiful August day, 2 days into the hike. I expected to be gone about 2 weeks. When literally out of the blue, the most terrifying thing that ever happened to me in my life occurred. It would change my perspective of reality forever. I was walking along the trail, enjoying the strong breeze and bright sunshine when, in the middle of a step, everything around me started to turn gray and blurry. The only way I can describe it was as if suddenly I was looking through someone else's prescription sunglasses. I finished the step and started another. Every inch I moved forward, the darkness increased, and the gray, blurring, turned into a jumble of shapes that made no sense. I then seemed to pass a barrier, and everything started to return back into focus when my foot reached the ground. On the second step, everything around me had changed. Day had turned into night, and there was no wind. All the Douglas fir and pine trees had been replaced with thick, jungle-like growth. The cool, thin mountain air was replaced with humid, thick air. There were no stars in the sky, but there was a diffused light that let me see everything clearly. However, I couldn't tell what the light source was. As often happens when the human body receives a massive dose of adrenaline, the entire incident appeared like it was in slow motion. And even though I was only there for a second or two, I had time to observe my surroundings. The silence was broken by continuous, high-pitched keening sound, and I was nearly overwhelmed with a sense of fear and danger. My momentum caused me to take one more step before stopping in my tracks. It was at this point I heard a whispered, "Gotcha," over my right shoulder. I couldn't tell if I heard it with my ears or inside my head. The word wasn't directed at me, but something said the word quietly to itself. I was so terrified, I actually felt my heart stop for a moment. That whispered word is what saved me. I opened my mouth and gasped in a huge gush of thick air and recoiled backward in the same footsteps I had entered wherever I was. As I threw myself backward, I looked over my right shoulder. A dark-colored, hairy right hand and arm was reaching from my throat over my shoulder. The hand had pale, ivory, spade-shaped fingernails. The nails looked clean and almost had a manicured look to them. The thumb was placed lower, towards the wrist, on the hand than a human's is. Both hand and arm were thin and powerful looking, and both were covered with thick, coarse, black hair. I got a good look at it because the thumbnail grazed my neck. It did not break the skin as I moved backwards. As I continued backwards, the hand clutched where my neck had been a split second before, and it seemed to fade off into the distance as I returned through the portal. I took 2 more steps backwards, and everything reversed itself from what had just happened. The world around me became lighter. The fir and pines gradually came back into view, and by the 3rd step, I was back on Saddle Blanket Mountain. I continued to move backwards in terror, and as I did, I observed that where I had just come from was a shimmering oval patch of air,
about the size of a large door. The woods behind it looked like it was underwater. By the fifth backward step, the shimmering area seemed to just evaporate, and everything was back to normal. By then, my lungs had nearly burst from the volume of air I had inhaled during the huge gasp I had just taken. My body felt like it was on fire from the adrenaline surge. I spun around and ran back down the trail as fast as my legs could carry me, and didn't stop until I reached my truck. I was nearly 2 days getting to that place, and about 3 hours getting back. On my way home, I was absolutely horrified at the thought of what would happen if I were to drive my truck into something like that. It had been a trap, pure and simple. Whatever it was that tried to kill me somehow kept the portal hidden from me on the way in, and I didn't actually see it until I was back out again. I had terrible nightmares for years, and still haven't come to grips with what happened. My fingers are trembling, and the hair is standing up on the nape of my neck as I write this. Severely shaken, I've read everything I could get my hands on about people who have mysteriously disappeared throughout history, and discovered several instances where people have vanished in plain sight of others. The quantum physics people have a theory about parallel universes. They just might be right. Since I originally wrote this, report number 9202 from Sutter County, California, was submitted to the BFRO. The person who submitted the report drew a picture of a creature he saw in a tree. The right hand in the picture is exactly the same as the one I saw. Note the thumb placement. And the forearm of the left arm is exactly like the forearm of the creature that attacked me.
The next story takes us far north, near to the extremities of the Earth, Galena, Alaska, on the Yukon. The original poster makes his way to his friend's cabin in the surrounding countryside for a long week of fishing and the raising of an addition to the house. Little do the two friends know that their property sits upon the interchange between worlds, and they set to work unaware that they are being watched by something.
I've never visited this board, so excuse any errors I make regarding board culture. I'll give a story that is currently happening to me. I'll give a little background and then go green text. My buddy David has 800 acres near Galena, Alaska. We're up here building onto his house and fishing the nearby rivers on our off days. We're about 15 miles back on a gravel road that goes farther onto BLM. There are a few logging trucks a day on the main road, but basically no traffic after the sun sets.
The first day we got here together in my Tacoma 4x4. We unscrewed the plywood off the windows, brought our bags onto the porch, got his generator started up, and unlocked his various outbuildings. The air was stale and a little rank, like a dead cat. Opened side door to kitchen. Opened the back door of the cabin and the windows that you could open. Didn't go upstairs, just let the place air out. Sat down on the porch to rest and quench our thirst. It's only been in the low 60s, but the plywood was heavy. We sat there and planned our remodel, generally shot the shit, happy to be here. He fiddled with his bait and tackle, and I admired the view from the front porch. Now, I'm not really a ghost or spirit believer, but I saw something last weekend. It's real quiet, and there was a lull in our conversation. Then out of the corner of my eye, I saw somebody walk out the open kitchen door. I rotated in my seat to see who was there. I barely saw the guy turn the corner towards the back of the house, towards the forest.
What the fuck?
David yells.
Did you see that motherfucker?
I did, dude. Who the fuck is that? David runs out to his truck where he has a Mossberg 590A. It's buried deep in our knock boxes, and we had a bunch of shit to unload to get to it. We just throw shit out of the truck till we get the box open. We decide to search the rest of the house first, scattergun in hand. We go upstairs, we look into the 2 bedrooms, under beds and everything. Nothing. No sign of squatters, animals, nothing. We both affirm we saw a little man with no shirt walk out of the kitchen door to our left from the main porch. We then go towards the back forest. The house and the pad they built it on has a thick gravel base right up to the forest. The forest floor is a thick mat of leaves, needles, and duff, and hard to track in. We looked all around and found no tracks. With the sun going down and all of our shit exposed, we decided going further into the forest was a bad idea. We both go back inside and close all of the windows, unpack our tools, set up our gear in the lower 2 bedrooms. We regroup in the kitchen and start guessing who that was. Was it a squatter that was living elsewhere on the land and heard us opening up the plywood? Thief? Animal? Either way, we're 2 badass carpenters with guns and not afraid to throw down with some little fucktard. We both go to bed.
The next day, we start setting up our tools and saws under tarps. We had the shotgun on a sawhorse nearby. Unloaded table saws and miter saws, setting up sawhorses, getting all the blades adjusted, and going through the lumber he has on site. We brought cement to pour a post and pier foundation for his addition. We unloaded that and decided to go fish in a river about 300 yards downhill from us. He caught 2 trout right off the bat, and I caught one about 20 minutes in. It slowed down after that, and we hiked further upstream. That's where we heard rustling across the stream from us. It could have been any number of animals, so we stood sharp. We fished there for about 2 more hours, and Dave started gutting the fish we had. We both head up to the house to wash up and fry some fish. After the last few bites of fish go down, Dave stands up at the table. He says he left his Benchmade down there where he was gutting the trout. He grabs a flashlight and heads down there. He said he looked for the rock with the fish guts on him, said his knife was there, but the fish guts were gone. He half jogged back to hide being scared. Later that night, right after we both go to our bedrooms and shut off the lights, in the total silence, I hear footsteps on the 2nd story. I think maybe an animal or squirrel snuck up there. Try to ignore it. It gets more frequent, with the steps going away from me towards the staircase. Dave calls out loudly.
Is that you up there?
No, I answer, now to my bedroom door. We both open our doors at the same time and step into the main room. We bumped off of each other in the dark and both looked at the upper staircase. I saw what looked like a small boy, but his face was almost featureless, and his eyes seemed pitch black in the low light. Who the fuck are you? The figure slowly steps to the railing like he was going to answer us. Instead, he let out an incredibly loud, ear-ripping screech, like what you imagine a T-Rex would sound. It was so loud I covered my ears and stumbled to the floor in the dark. It was so loud it disoriented me. From the ground, I look up at the 2nd floor, just in time to see it run back into the bedroom. Dave ran past me with his Mossberg in hand. Dave ran to the top of the stairs and turned the hall light on. He then ran straight into the bedroom and out of my sight. Boom, boom, boom! At this point, I am beyond scared and almost physically shutting down, like heat stroke or hypothermia. I knew that those gunshots meant that Dave may have just killed somebody. Dave reappears at the top of the staircase.
He jumped out of the window and ran into the forest. He's like a deformed midget. His back was all fucked up and he was on his hands and knees.
What? Did you hit him? If his laser fucked up, how did he run away?
I don't know, but he jumped out and ran into the fir trees.
We both went out the back door and turned on the exterior lights. There was no blood on the gravel. The smell of burnt powder was still in the wind.
Was he up there all day?
Dave, he must have been. He probably snuck up there while we were working.
So, why would he go up there? Anything of value?
Frickin' nothing. Old blankets and pillows.
Dave, do you have your game cam?
Yes, it's in the truck.
He goes out to his truck. Well, I watch from the front door. Again, the enormous sound shatters the night. I imagined that the sonic crowd-controlled weapons you hear about would feel like this. I instinctually covered my ears and let go a little pee into my boxers. Dave had dropped his gun and keys out of shock. He jumped into the Tacoma and locked the door. Keys and shotgun outside of his truck. I close the front door and stare at Dave to the window. He can see behind the house, and I can't. His mouth is agape.
Figure fuck this, run out towards truck, grab gun, grab keys, and beat on window for Dave to open up. He turns to me as white as a ghost and opens the door. Frankly, I'm too afraid to look up towards the back of the house and just rush back to the door with Dave in my arms. I slammed the front door and started locking all doors and windows. Dave was pretty much in shock. What did you see? What did you see?
It was a stretched out dead guy that roared at us.
He then rolls over and barfs on his floor.
I am really starting to panic and experience tunnel vision. I never knew what that meant until that moment. I give Dave a rag and we sit on the couches.
Who the fuck was it, Dave? A dead guy?
It looked dead and ashy, but it made that noise and then made a scary face when it saw me. Its face moved into an evil shape.
Let's leave, dude.
I can't leave, all my tools here.
Let's drive into town and get a motel then.
Okay.
We grabbed our phones and wallets and the Mossberg. Dave insisted on setting up the game cam before we left. He wanted it on the front door, but I said let's put it out back on a tree to see if this thing comes back. We put up the cam on a tree directly behind his house under full gun coverage. We then jump into the Tacoma and peel away from the house. We drove back into town, but everything is booked, so we sleep in the truck. In the morning, after breakfast, we drive back to his place. We pack up all of our tools as quickly as we can. We screw the plywood back up. Then, with the engine already running, I go retrieve the game cam. I didn't get to download them until today when I got back home.
When the midget shouted, or when you got inside the car, was there any pungent stench like rotting animals?
Nah. I clearly remember the smell wafting up my nose when we removed the plywood from the windows. It wasn't a wet smell, more like a dried out rat or cat smell if you know it.
In all the time you spent there, did you felt awkward, as in you were watched or followed, either inside the house or the woods?
After the first day, when we saw a figure pop out of the side door, we were both fully on edge. This isn't something that I've ever seen or felt the need to talk about. I was so tense, my neck was sore for 2 days after we left. I felt drained from being in that state of awareness for that long.
Try talking to David about this. See if you remember something.
He's convinced it's a hairless bear with mange, that the screeches were a roar. He thinks the webcam caught a hairless bear. I'm no bear expert, but wouldn't it have shit all over the place? Fucked shit up with claw marks and stuff? Anyways, the next neighbor down is a retired Army vet. He says it's probably a sick bear. But he also said he hears what he described as incredibly loud monkey howls from up in the trees around his lake on some summer nights. He also told us he saw a mountain lion that was almost completely black, that was by his estimation an impossibly long 13 feet from nose to tail. We are going back this weekend with dogs and more friends.
This all reminds me a lot of something a couple of my friends saw several years back. Since I can't find the original picture I drew all those years ago, I did a doodle based on my friends' descriptions that I remember. Ask your buddy if his deformed midget looked anything like that. Bump, wanna hear more? 2 questions. First one, have any of you did a research on the house/territory? Like previous owners or who lived there before the actual house was built? If you haven't, try to add to the research if there's any kind of cult operating in that zone. Second one, the thing didn't go after you, did it? Like, it answered when you discovered it, but didn't try to approach you while sleeping or something.
He inherited it from his father, who lived in CA but died a few years back. I heard it was a smaller fishing cabin that was leveled for the house that is currently there, and semi-modern open-beam design. No, but it was headed downstairs when it woke us up. When Dave went to the truck, it was an angrier noise. It was mad at Dave.
Greater than summer, 1968 Hazel Strasberg of Galena reported she saw a big hair-covered man from her boat at dusk. No other details. Greater than summer 1969 Wien Airlines agent in Galena told Bob Betts they saw the hair-covered man again near the bank of the Yukon between Galena and Ruby. Greater than Galena, Alaska summer 1969 Dick Carroll and son reportedly saw the Bushman while constructing a fire line near Bear Creek drainage near Galena. http://www.bigfootencounters.com/sbs/oldalaska.htm. Also of note, Galena is 63.6% Native American.
I don't know about this spiritual stuff, but I am an electrician that's been in milder but similar situation, rehabbing and tooling an abandoned factory. My advice would be the following. First, more game cams. I regret not even trying to capture what I saw and experienced. Next, keep your earmuffs around at all times. Deny it the ability to debilitate you. Bring a foghorn, whistle, or some other noisemaker. It seems to communicate verbally. Answer it in kind. Do not bring a lot of guns. I'd be more scared of friendly fire than it. Finally, don't expect to see it again. In my experience, the day I came prepared was the day I never hear or saw it again.
Haha, wise advice, Sparky. I only have the one game cam, and we are leaving tomorrow. Checked in town, but they wanted $300. I will bring my cell phone, which has video. I didn't last time because there was no reception. I am riding with Dave out to the cabin and will lose reception soon. He had 2 pictures on his phone, which he forwarded to me. Pick one is this view out of the window this thing jumped. The second picture I'll post is the broken and boarded up window.
The window in the middle was open, and thus didn't get blasted. My reception's down to 1 bar. I won't post game cam pics till Tuesday, possibly late Monday night. I am off to adventure.
Alaskan OP checking in. There is definitely something in the woods up there. I don't know what I'd call it, but look for yourself. I'm dumping all of my game cam pictures and a few time-stamped pictures too. I'm a little shaken up, so I may post these and then go calm down for a while and have a few beers.
We got up there around 7 p.m. and set up the game cam right off the bat. It was only 60 degrees our first night back, but we were all sweaty from unpacking. We removed the plywood off of only 2 windows downstairs and fired up the generator. We brought 2 dogs, a 2 million candle power spotlight, earplugs, 2 motion detector alarms, and 1 other friend named Lonnie. We also brought a shotgun, 2 pistols, and Lonnie brought a .308 rifle. We talked about last time the whole drive up. Lonnie was unconvinced. We cooked some hot dogs and mac and cheese for dinner. We threw on the headlights and unloaded the truck. We moved our shit into each room and kept all of the doors closed. We all can smell a whiff of smoke in the air and maybe a dead animal nearby. We set 1 motion detector up on the driveway in so we knew if somebody else came in behind us. The other one we set up on the back side of the house not far from the game cam. The dog set the driveway one off, setting us all into a tizzy, but we saw nothing there with the spotlight. We finally closed up the doors and windows around 9 o'clock. We drank beer in the upstairs bedroom together since this allowed us a raised view of the front and back of the cabin. Mainly Lonnie drank. Dave and I nursed our beers and kept working the spotlight instead. Lonnie drove in from Stevens and was tired. He went to bed and closed his door, snoring shortly thereafter around 10:30. Both dogs were in the main room on the first floor. Dave and I talked about me posting here and how he still thought it was a juvenile bear with mange.
The generator makes so much noise you couldn't hear a car driving up, much less a person. We are mainly listening for the motion detectors, like the sound you hear when you walk in a 7-Eleven, or the dogs barking. I have my phone already on camera mode in my pocket. Feel like a dorky Ghostbuster and think maybe we're being silly. We start talking about the foundation we need to pour and other plans for the remodel. I'm still on edge from being here again, and at this point am leery of sleeping alone here. Dave is almost passing out and decides to take the upper bedroom where we are drinking. I go down to the second bottom bedroom to let Dave sleep. I can hear Lonnie snoring as I close my door and brace it with a chair. I have a loaded 9mm and a flashlight by my bed. After one of the dogs whimpers, I move the Cold XD and the flashlight right into bed with me from the nightstand. A little before 1, still awake thinking. I started to worry if we were summoning this thing. Would our cameras and motion detectors call forth something we never really wanted to see? Images of the small boy-sized thing ran through my dreams when I finally fell asleep. In the morning, we made coffee and started digging and forming for our concrete pour. Nobody heard any barks or telltale alarms from our motion detectors in the night. The dog seemed relaxed and laid in the sun nearby most of the day. We worked till about 1 p.m. before breaking for lunch. While we were eating, the motion detector goes off. We can see both dogs, and there is nothing in front of the electronic eye. Around 3, both motion detectors went off around 3 p.m. The dogs seemed unbothered, so we weren't either. We finished up our forms and got all of our tools ready for a pour in the morning. After that, we ate tacos and sat on the porch till about 8:30. We left the dogs outside and came in when it was still light outside. I felt I had made it halfway through, like I was halfway to erasing what happened last time. If only nothing happens tonight, I can forget all that happened before. I told Dave I regretted not having a way to view the game cam. Secretly, I am glad I couldn't see the pictures while we were still out there in the middle of nowhere. I showered and was too on edge to even relax. I felt a deep sense of dread, a dread that almost overpowered me at some points. I leaned on the silence of the dogs and detectors for strength. I've been in 20 fights in my life, and I'm considered a tough guy in my circle. But I was too afraid to even look outside at dusk. I silently hoped for nightfall to obliterate my ability to see what was outside. We each showered one by one.
We all sat in the main room of the house and talked about the concrete we were pouring in the morning. The plan is to pour the concrete and let it cure for a few days while we go back home, then come back in a few days to pull the forms. With no cement mixer, this would probably take us 6 to 8 hours tomorrow. Either way, I wasn't planning on sleeping here after tonight. The next 30 minutes I spent closing doors, cabinets, curtains, windows, anything. The dogs quietly sat on the porch out front. The generator hummed along. Everything was going to be okay.
We packed tools and left enough hand tools to strip the forms, gathered all of our trash and shut down the generator. Around 1, we were ready to go. I went around the back of the house and retrieved the game cam. I noticed all kinds of dead bird parts near the camera. This gonna be good.jpg. I thought that was strange enough that I took pictures with timestamps. As we drove out the rough dirt road, I was so thankful nothing had happened. We barreled westward down the highway, got home around 3. I eagerly unpacked the game cam first and went inside to view the pictures. I was so anxious I forgot to power up the cam before plugging it into my computer. When the pictures finally loaded, I viewed them and my stomach started churning acid. By the time image 0027 opened, I felt a dull ache from my intestines up to the marrow of the bones in my arm. There was that Xmas tree-shaped little boy I saw atop the staircase that first night. I still haven't showed David these, and I don't really want to. I don't know what it is, nor do I want to know. All I know is that I'm never going back to Galena again. This image was white just as it appeared.
This next story comes to us from Prince of Wales Island.
Live off deep in the holler. Drive out to one of my backwoods spots to go camping. 3 hours into 5-hour hike before I reached my camping spot. Nice day, fresh air, clear skies, occasional animal noises in the distance. Getting that oneness feel with nature. Here's some rustling up a hill off the path I'm treading. It's a fucking dude. He's stumbling down the hill. He's walking funny like a puppet on strings walk. Very weird looking. My memory kicks in. There were no other cars parked in the offshoot that leads to the forest trail I'm treading. We are on the edge of fucking nowhere. Is nothing out there for hundreds of miles from the direction he came from. It's just fucking forests. That's when he started to laugh and called out, "Hello there." That's when I unholstered my gun. This dude stumbles onto the trail. He has a real jovial demeanor about him. I rack the slide. Gen 1S and WM and P, no safety. He waves as he walks towards me on the trail. I aim at this guy and yell, "That's close enough." The dude is completely unfazed with me pointing a gun at him. He just keeps laughing and waving. Weird-ass gait to his walk, almost serpentine swivel to his legs, but his body didn't move right, like puppet strings were moving him. It was uncanny as fuck. I've heard enough stories about things in the woods, from /x/ and other places to know how this shit goes down. I will fucking kill you. I am not fucking around. I say this really fast and loud. If there is any semblance of sanity in this creature, I want them to know they will soon be ventilated. Undeterred, he keeps wiggle walking towards me. This is after I've pointed a gun at him and threatened to shoot this motherfucker. I can clearly discern his facial features. He looked normal enough.
You'd be forgiven for mistaking him for human for sure, if it wasn't for that weird-ass walk. He was wearing a sweater and jeans. Just a regular dude by any other account. Said dude is less than 10 meters away at this point, and he continues with the laugh and disjointed conversation starters. It's nice to meet you. Internal monologue goes, fuck it. And I dump 5 or 6 rounds of .40 into this guy. I pause for a moment because he stops walking after those shots. I think I hit him. He wasn't bleeding though. He didn't scream or wince or nothing. He just stood there. Then he falls. He settles in an awkward position like his joints and bones aren't connected, right? It's like someone put human together without knowing how skeletal structure works. Swear to God. Crinkle Man, contorted into a mess of shapes on the trail floor, zipped off like a fucking bird and disappears into the underbrush. I hear a rapid pitter-patter of steps that gradually fade into the fucking woods with twigs and branches snapping. As Crinkle Man gets further away, I noped out of there hard. It was already 2:30, and by 4:30, it's going to be getting dark in the forest. Or darker than I'd feel comfortable being with Crinkle Man out there. On the spot, I dumped my tent, sleeping bag, and everything I was okay just leaving there because I needed to turn a 3-hour hike into 1 hour and 30-minute hike. There was no fucking way I was going to get caught in the forest after dark with fucking Crinkle Man Wiggle walking up to my ass. Fuck. That with the bare essentials on my person, I double-timed it back the way I came. Luckily, it was mostly downhill, so I wasn't fighting gravity like when I came up. I took care not to run too fast because if I twisted my ankle or fell and hurt myself, I knew I would be well and truly fucked if Crinkle Man was creeping around. At 3:45, the sun was already starting not to show through the trees as much. A slight panic had started to get into me, but I remained calm and kept with my brisk pace. I got back to my car at fucking 4:20. I looked back into the forest and apparently my eyes had adjusted to it because it was dark as fuck. 20 meters back into it, and the shadows just created a cave-like darkness into the nethers of the underbrush. Got in my car and got the fuck out of there. I don't know what that thing was, but it wasn't going to be wearing my skin. I don't know if that thing is still out there, but I don't camp in that neck of the woods now. I'm not going back for my tent or other kit. It's just not worth it for that stretch of woods.
The enforcement of law is one of the foundation stones of civil society from the times of the antique polis and even down to the rudest pre-human encampments. There has always been a need to safeguard the interior against impropriety while guarding against whatever may lie waiting in the murky night of uncertainty. But what would happen if such a guard fell or else were changeling replaced? Then surely the dark would swallow up the light. In this story, the original poster relates a story told to him by his father.
Share stories told to you by other people. I'll start with my father's one below. Dad, living in Southern California in the 80s, tells me a bunch of weird stories all the time, but is adamant this is the only one he couldn't explain. Be him, poor college student, walking home from the laundromat. Tells me it was a misty night, eerily quiet. Sees this cop parked, standing outside his car. His door is swung open, flashlight pointed at some paper he's reading. Sees this other, also uniformed cop walk out from the darkness behind him. Other cop unholsters his gun, points it behind the other cop's head, who doesn't notice. Bang! My dad fucking freezes and drops the clothes he was bringing to his car. Just stares in fucking awe around 100 feet away. Can't believe he saw this cop get fucking domed by another cop. Other cop gets in the now dead cop's car, drives away. Dad freaks the fuck out, unsure what to do. Goes to check up on cop, rolls him over, tells me his nose was just missing and chunks of his brain and head were everywhere. Distinctly remembers name tag with Ruford on it and a fist-sized birthmark on his neck. Runs into the laundromat leaving bloody footprints and tells the shop owner to call 911. Owner is an old Asian lady who's even more freaked out than my dad. She peers out the window and sees the body and starts crying hysterically, both just waiting for cops to arrive for over 10 minutes. Body just laying outside, seemingly as if nothing happened. Eventually, he sees 5 cop cars in a perfect line driving down the road. No lights or sirens, lined up like some convoy. They all get there and instantly lift the body into a trunk. Dad tells me he's no law enforcement specialist, but he knew damn well there's no protocol for that. Starts freaking out even more, thinking he's just witnessed some high-level corruption shit. Cops don't even enter the building and question him. Tells me he got questioned by cops. This one time, some grandma called the cops on some skaters. They see him staring from inside the building. Goes outside, asks them if they need his side of the story. Won't be necessary, sir. We have it under control.
As quickly as they came, they're gone. Blood cleaned up too. Asks the owner if she just saw what he did. Dad tells me she responded in her strong Viet accent. I never seen anything like this. Dad just goes home afterwards. Told me he stayed up all night thinking about what he saw. Tells me it was at that moment he got somewhat of a reality check. Says at that point he realized when people die, it's nothing like the movies. Has enormous suspicions. He just witnessed some targeted killing or corruption. Goes to the police station a few days later, asking to speak to the highest authority to get some feeling of peace. Eventually, the captain says he can speak with him. Dad was from a good family, so he said that probably greased the wheels some. Captain sits in a room with him asking what he needs. Dad tells him the whole story, saying he could call in the store owner if he needed to.
In the trunk. I'm very sorry, John, but nothing happened that day.
What the hell do you mean nothing happened? I heard the bang, saw the body, hell, the blood is on my carpet.
I'm very sorry, sir, but those events never happened.
If you have any other questions, you can come again. I've got matters to attend to. Dad is just flustered and decides to leave. Starts wondering if he had a bad dream. Looks toward the window of the room as he's about to leave. Sees a face looking at them both. His eyes widen and his heart starts racing. It's fucking Ruford. Same hair, same neck birthmark, same skin tone. Dad says as soon as he saw him, he continued walking down the hallway pretending he wasn't watching. Dad tells the captain it's him, the guy that died. Captain says that he's wasting his time at this point and must leave. Dad says he must have an identical twin or something that shot him. Captain says now if he doesn't leave, he'll arrest my dad. Dad is just simultaneously exhausted, confused, and frustrated. He isn't being taken seriously. Just decides to try and leave and forget about the whole thing. Begins to leave and walks toward the crowded and noisy waiting area, as it was a big station serving a large area. As he's getting into his car looking toward the front, he sees Ruford. The man flashes him a big, stereotypically creepy grin. Says the cop put a finger gun up to his own head, pulled his thumb down like he's pulling the trigger, and then he laughed. Dad is a big-time hippie, but he bought a small gun before going home. Tells me he still thinks about it to this day.
Private storage. A foolproof business proposition and an indispensable service to anyone who's ever had furniture. Sometimes extra space for small businesses or the home or some transient, sometimes the receptacle for the accumulated half-finished projects and abandoned memories of a lifetime long past and soon to be discarded. They often exist at the fringes of districts and in the crooked corners of cities in order to serve the maximum number of customers, and by that very fact are placed directly at the intersection where strange and unseemly things take place. This next story is from an anon who is a freelance technician, sent to fetch equipment from such a place, and his encounter with some strange thing.
Hey guys. I don't normally post here except to poke fun at people and bump interesting threads, but something happened to me yesterday that I need to talk about. Be me, living with folks in town near Chicago. Not a complete NEET, yet. Do contract work as a network technician while studying at the local college. Mom works for a small telephone and internet company as a secretary. Small, as in like 4 people. I know the owner pretty well. He'll often hire me for jobs. Nice guy. Get a call on Tuesday. They're moving to a different office nearby and need some networking gear organized and put into a new storage unit tomorrow. It's paid, and I have nothing better to do since Pox is taking all my work away. I agree. Next day, it's raining. Get a call, and boss man suggests I wait for it to let up so the boxes don't get soaked. Wait a while. Rain lets up a bit. I head out. Get there and start loading boxes into my mom's Ford, since it's bigger than my car. Take them to storage unit and get them nice and organized. Storage complex is between highway and about an acre of forested area. I worked at UPS for 2 years. This is nothing. Make a few runs. Unit is looking nice. Pick related. Took around second run. While partway through with my third, the rain picks up like crazy. It had been raining all day and we'd been getting flooding, but this was really heavy. Can't get boxes from my car to the unit in this rain, so I get comfy inside the unit, put on some jazz, don't judge me, and start working on fixing a MacBook for another client. Work for about 2 hours while I wait for the rain to clear up. Cozy.ogg. It just keeps getting worse. It's not very cold though, and only about 3 in the afternoon, so I'm fine hanging out. I finished with the Mac a while ago, and am now just chilling. Then, I start hearing smashing from nearby. Sounds like something hitting metal. Car crash on the nearby highway? No, it's coming from the other direction. I really don't want to go out and get wet. Whatever. Some asshole probably dropped something. This is a public area, like 200 feet from a busy highway. It's raining, but it's still the middle of the day, and I even saw other people earlier. Zero fear. Keep working. Keep hearing various banging noises. I'm gonna feel like a real kid if I find out tomorrow that someone was hurt out there and I didn't bother checking. Fucking fine. I'll go check. Rain has let up a bit, but it's still pouring. Head out, round corner looking for noise. Notice massive hole in the fence leading to the little forest area. See something white moving near a dumpster by a fence. Spend 1/100th of a second thinking, is that a big garbage bag under the dumpster? That's not a garbage bag. Garbage bags don't have arms. They don't click either. Pick related. It's a shitty map of the area. Now, let me make something clear. I've read Skinwalker and Innawood stories on here for a long time and know all the tropes. This had none of them. It was the middle of the day. I'm not in some deep forest or ancient tunnel or abandoned farmhouse. I'm in the middle of a small town and can hear traffic on the highway just 300 feet away. I didn't smell any rotting blood or stop hearing the wind or anything. I didn't feel a sense of unease or nervous at all. This was not a setting I expected horror in. Still not convinced I'm in danger, just confused. Try and get a closer look at the thing. Maybe 150 feet away from it. Can see what looks like a big bag of skin under there, but there's these massive white spikes poking out from under it. Keep hearing clicking noises. Hello? Who's that? Immediately regret making the yelling out. Why would I do that? This is the kind of thing I get mad at people in other green texts for doing. Typewriter garbage bag thing must have heard me. Something big squeezes out from underneath the dumpster. Massive pile of skin and spiky bits, at least 4 feet tall. It stands up. It is now taller than me, at least 6'5". It looks like if you took a spider, reversed its body, made it pale white, and slapped big pointy arms on it. It has a pointy and angular body, kind of like a crayfish or spider, but clearly fleshy instead of hard, except for the tips of its arms, legs. Face is smooth and flat. Even from where I am, I can tell it's covered in tons of scratches and bruises. Creature is clearly not happy. It doesn't seem to mind the rain, but every time there's thunder, it flinches hard. Also seems to be spitting up a large amount of water out of its mouth. Imagine it in the corner, seen in pic. You can kind of see the torn fence, but the dumpster was moved. I can hear it fucking clicking louder now. Not like a bat or dolphin, though. It sounded more like a typewriter or someone flicking a lighter. Start freaking out internally. This is not possible. I live in a decently sized city. There's no forests or swamps or deserts for whatever this is to hide in. The forest nearby is like an acre wide. You would be able to see through it if not for the little hill in the middle. It doesn't give a shit if it's possible. It's moving towards me. Thankfully, it doesn't seem very fast. Quickly think. I don't know what this is. I have no weapons, and my car is 100 feet away around the corner. I don't know how fast or dangerous this thing is either. Start slowly backing away. Too scared to let it out of my sight, yelling progressively louder, hoping someone will hear me. Hello? Hello, help! Anyone, help, please! It starts moving faster, clicking more rapidly. It moved kind of like a crab, with the 6, I think, legs at the bottom moving it around, while the 2 arm things were raised up like claws. Try to move faster to get away, but I'm still too terrified to turn away from it. End up awkwardly backwards, running into a concrete bollard and fucking up my back. It's moving really quick now. It's about 20 feet away from me. Absolutely terrified, but I grab a loose piece of asphalt and get ready to try and smash it in the weird mouth parts. Suddenly, loud truck horn on the highway nearby. It starts flinching again. Take my chance to cower out. Throw rock at its head, miss, and haul ass away. Eventually reach the row of storage units my car is in. Get in, start the engine, peel the fuck out. Get of storage complex, no time for codes. Instead, I do something incredibly stupid. Hop out of my car, scale the fence, and start running across the busy highway into a fucking graveyard. So this is where most of the excitement ends. Instead of turning into another green text, the graveyard was fine. I ran to the nearby church. A little parish office lady let me in and let me use her phone to call the police. Obviously, I didn't tell them I saw a fucking skin spider monster, but someone with guns needs to get in there ASAP. Tell them I saw a shifty-looking man waving a pistol around at the self-storage center. I waited at the chapel for one to arrive and thanked the old lady. The cop asked me some questions and I just gave vague answers. Didn't need to lie about fucking up my back by backing into a concrete bollard, though. Apparently, cops found nothing there. There was another guy in the storage area at the time who heard me scream, but wasn't able to find me before I ran out of there. I'm not an artist, but I tried to draw what I saw. Sorry for the low quality.
And that concludes our programming for tonight, leaving you, we hope, with a little more wonder in your heart and mystery for your mind to unfold than you had before. And with that we bid you good night, that you may fare well. GoblinetteHerald, signing off.
you.